Hey, welcome to a very special, live, quick, and simple edition of AEWSPARK Aftershock. As boy, has a lot been gone down in the last 24 hours. The Forbidden Door is absolutely open, more than ever, and there's never been a more exciting, unpredictable, wild fantasy booking time to be a wrestling fan. Plus, this Joshi Pro driven on one side, American driven on the other side, women's eliminator tournament. It really looks great, and I can't wait to see what happens Monday night when we get Joshi Pro Wrestling in full. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this simple afternoon, quick edition of AEWSPARK Aftershock. My name is Noah Foss, and I'm a simple man and a lifelong fan of wrestling. And I thought I would just come on here before the tournament kicks off tomorrow night, and after what happened last night at Impact Wrestling, to just give some brief thoughts on basically everything that's gone down and is about to come. Shout out to those who watch either live or on demand. And again, folks, I'm just about two things: enjoy life and enjoy wrestling. Simple as that. With that being said, why don't we go ahead and first discuss what happened last night at No Surrender. Last night marked the Impact Plus monthly Impact Wrestling special, this time entitled No Surrender, headlined by one Rich Swann and Tommy Dreamer. Thank you, Dreamer. I thought that was a pretty good match, even though the outcome was predictable. But let's focus more so on AEW's Impact in the prior match that they called their double main event, as the Good Brothers defended the Impact World Tag Team Championships against James Storm and Chris Sabin, the team now formerly known apparently as Beer Guns, taking on AEW's Private Party with Big Money Matt Hardy. This was a really good back and forth exchange affair, and Private Party looked like stars in this match. For those that don't know Private Party, a lot of people kind of turn down Private Party because they think they don't get, like, all the impact, no pun intended, behind their moves and their high element of execution. But I like the way that they saved Private Party at the end, where it looked like they were about to win, with Big Money Matt getting involved and the veteran James Storm being the eater of the fall, as it looked like they were going for the shooting star press, and they hit it, blind tag by Machine Gun Carl Anderson, and he literally steals the win in the end, pinning James Storm. But this was a really great back and forth match, a lot of good near fall moments, great tag team chemistry, especially a great showcase for Private Party. When I think about this match and I think about how Chris Sabin and Private Party, they exchanged with each other a little bit, I could see more issue Machine Guns with Private Party. Excuse me. Some point in AEW. I could also see at one point, literally, maybe the Morrison Machine Guns and the Young Bucks revisit. But now that the Good Brothers have retained the Impact World Tag Team Championships, you gotta wonder who will be next to step up and maybe face them too. But overall, really good match. And I'm curious now if this will be the last time we see Matt Hardy and or Private Party in Impact Wrestling. And also, Matt Hardy, he seemed very distraught after the match. And, excuse me, throat strike. Sorry, folks. And it looked like now Matt Hardy, he's going to have to rethink, because now Private Party, they are not in the loop to challenge for the AEW World Tag Championships, and their one opportunity for the Impact World Tag Championships, they fell short. So at this point, you got to wonder what's next for the Impact Tag Team division. Well, we suddenly got an idea as No Surrender continued to conclude, and Moose destroyed Rich Swann with his own form of pain, basically considering himself now the next challenger for the Impact World Heavyweight Championship. But as I was saying, this was a really nice back and forth special. Great flow, great variety of matches, great booking. I really enjoyed the show. I highly recommend you all to check it out on Impact Plus if you get the chance. We weren't done there, because I was like, wait, is this an advertisement, since NJPW is now on Roku? By the way, it's awesome, folks. Check it out. And it's free if you haven't already. What do I see but an NJPW logo, a bunch of scrambling, and then some subtle clips of one former IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship team, former IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championship team. Let me just say that again. People involved in NJPW Strong, winners of World Tag League 2019. Freaking Juice Robinson and David Finlay? Finn Juice is coming Tuesday night to Impact Wrestling? Ladies and gentlemen, Impact Wrestling and NJPW, who both, I might add, declared on their social media accounts, the door is open. Finn Juice is making their way to Impact Impact Wrestling. Holy shit. There's never been a wilder time to fantasy book wrestling in your life. Think about it. We could be getting Good Brothers versus Finjuice for the Impact World Tag Team Championships in a tag team division on Impact Wrestling. And let's face it, folks, it's really kind of dwindled, especially with Alex Shelley out indefinitely. But what this also means is that all the bad blood from the horrible angle from years back when NJPW and Impact Sully worked, including one Orlandega, totally booked into a botched bad standard. It basically, like, literally everything is being mended. I guess that Harold Maji did not have this vision in mind, and Sugar Bayashi was against Harold's vision, so this really wasn't put to the forefront. But it looks like, honestly, this has been talked about, according to what I read, since last year's summer, as far as Impact Wrestling and NJPW working together. We already know that the Good Brothers said that they can go in between NJPW and Impact. We've just been waiting for them, of course, this pandemic holds it all together, for them to show up on NJPW television, whether strong or whether in Japan. I have to imagine now they're going to show up after the pandemic and World Tag League. That'd be my first guess. But the fact that Finjuice is literally going to be on Impact Wrestling this Tuesday, we literally now have three of the best things going in professional wrestling today working together. It's the territories reborn, where it's not about competition and borders. It's about exploration, experience, and individual showcasing, where Impact, AEW, and NJPW are leading the front. And with all these other companies under them, like AAA, OWE, and NWA influence as well, who knows how much further we can go in professional wrestling now. This is absolutely incredible. I could not be more excited for this because we haven't seen Finjuice involved in action in a while since NJPW Strong, and fallen short, of course, in the World Tag League last year to GLD with the help of one Jado. So this is extremely exciting for me. But speaking of which, as I slowly talk about that, I do wonder, will Okada make it rain in AEW or Impact? Is there chances that Kazuchika Okada versus Kenny Omega be revisited in what could be their most high-profile match to date? Can Okada literally be a future AEW World Champion? It seems highly likely at this point. And to think, if it wasn't for this pandemic, all of this would be spearheaded, I feel like, so much faster. When I think about this and I think about the way that Okada was showcased back in the former era of TNA, I felt like that really burned a lot of bridges with wrestling companies in general. But it seems now, with everything Scott D'Amore, Don Callis, and Tony Khan, and the new CEO of New Japan and Sugar Bayashi are trying to lead here, it seems like now things are just, slowly coming together to just bring more exposure to the sport of pro wrestling. And that was Okada's vision too. He wanted to make professional wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, the best in the world, bigger than anything. He wanted to make the sport of pro wrestling bigger than other sports itself. And I could not be more behind that vision. So I definitely would not route the idea of Okada showing up in AEW to challenge Kenny Omega some point before the end of the year. It's a wild thought to think about, but folks, in a year of uncertainty, this year itself proving right now that absolutely anything could be possible in professional wrestling. I just wonder what this means at this point for Ring of Honor and how that relationship is going. But I digress. Anyway, as we wonder what the future will bring with NJPW and Impact and AEW all seem to be conglomerating and working together, I don't want to necessarily talk a lot about this, but I feel like it does need to be brought up, as it does seem like right now we're wondering what Sammy's future might hold in store, because apparently it seems that Sammy, he may have did something wrong, and now we gotta wonder what's going on here. I'm seeing like multiple reports from multiple resources about Sammy Guevara not agreeing with something Impact Wrestling was probably going to do with him. And it's like Don Callis and Chris Jericho and Tony Khan, they aren't happy with the way Sammy's interpreting this. You got to imagine with the way that these companies are going to work with each other, they're going to be very careful to protect the integrity of their champions, of their company, and of all the wrestling talent in general. Hence why James Storm, the great vet, ate the fall to the Good Brothers in that triple threat tag team match. But I think about this. I wonder what could have been Sammy's future. Were they trying to settle against TJP for the X Division title? And would he eat the fall of TJP, or would TJP pass off the title to Sammy Guevara? With Sammy Guevara turning a babyface in AEW, I also wonder at this point, like what is the direction for Sammy Guevara and the Inner Circle, and how much more is Chris Jericho and Don Callis going to also be conglomerating now during this partnership as well. After all, it was them that led that whole program with Kenny Omega facing Chris Jericho for the IWGP United States Championship. And of course, a year later, we had Chris Jericho versus Naito for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship. And we've also seen Jericho now face Tanahashi. So it really makes me wonder now, will Jericho Tanahashi be visited? Will Jericho make his way into Impact Wrestling? What does the future of wrestling hold in store? The bottom line is this. There has not been a more exciting time to be a wrestling fan. And right now, anything is possible between Impact, AEW, and NJPW. And it's only going to grow from there. So enjoy the ride, fantasy book, wonder, question, what woman do you want to see wrestle on AEW? What person do you want to see show up on Impact Wrestling? Who do you want to see maybe in the G1 involved from Impact or AEW? All of those are huge possibilities at this point. Let's see here. Hey, Dylan, if Sammy did show up, it would have been sick. I agree 100%. I wouldn't rule it out with right now Sammy Guevara trying to redefine his outlook right now as far as AEW goes. And again, the sky's the limit. Tuesday night cannot come soon enough. There's never been a better time to watch wrestling than Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Fridays. Just saying. With that being said, let's go ahead and talk about while we're here. And I want to shed some light on the AEW Women's World Championship Eliminator Tournament. As it seems now AEW is trying to push women's pro wrestling forward, led by one Hikaru Shida, who currently is over in Japan, leading the Japanese side as far as the competitors, the matches, and coaching. Formerly right now been involved as special guest referee in a tag team match with some of the competitors, and will be doing live, well, not live, but Japanese commentary for these matches. With that being said, I looked over this tournament, I looked over the history of Joshi Pro a little bit, and I looked over each of these competitors. We got young up-and-comers in the prime of their career, and we got experienced veterans, and of course the legend Aja Kong, which I feel like right there, game over. But I'm not going to assume that. To shed some light, though, I do want to give you an idea of what Joshi Pro means. Joshi Pro is a form of Japanese pro wrestling that exemplifies fighting spirit. It's kind of like a women's showcase of strong style. And honestly, this has been going on for a number of years now across various Japanese promotions, including but not limited to Stardom, DDT, Pro Wrestling Wave, I believe, Sendai Girls Pro Wrestling, and of course, Koto Pro Wrestling and Joshi Pro Wrestling. So if you want to open your mind and learn a little bit about Japanese women's pro wrestling, then I definitely would consider you explore YouTube and explore this tournament when the matches happen tomorrow night live on YouTube, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It needs Ali. Yay, Ali. Okay, I agree to that. I agree to that. But again, you got to consider Ali and how she feels at this point. We don't know the current status of Ali as a wrestler. But Ali right now, she is playing character on AEW with Eddie Kingston and the family and with the Butcher and the Blade. And might I add, Butcher, the Blade, with the Bunny, yay, Ali, they will be involved both in AEW Dark and AEW Dynamite this week as Eddie Kingston and his family, they take on the trio of Lance Archer, Jon Moxley, and Rey Fenix. You gotta wonder with the fact that Lance Archer and Jon Moxley went to town to destroy each other. The fact that these two are working together as tag team partners, it's a very interesting dynamic. It almost makes me wonder with the idea of trios titles. Could Jon Moxley form a faction called Death Riders? And maybe it's Lance Archer and Jon Moxley and some other person. I keep thinking to myself, Jon Moxley, in my opinion, he needs to be part of freaking Suzuki-gun at this point. Just make it happen. And by the way, if y'all don't watch GCW, you seriously should. As Jon Moxley will be facing Davey Boy Smith Jr. on the next Bloodsport. And that's this Saturday. Again, never been a better time to be a pro wrestling fan. But with that being said, as off a tangent, sorry, you can tell how sad I am. Considering what's going on with AEW right now, figuring out who Kashi's next challenger, Revolution being less than a month away, let's go ahead and look at the AEW Women's World Championship Eliminator Tournament and its combatants. So, as you can see here, we have a USA side and a Japanese side. And so far, only one match has been completed, as Thunder Rosa did beat legit Layla Hirsch. We got current NWA Women's Champion Serena Deeb with 15 years of experience versus Rico, the first AEW Women's Champion with 14 years of experience. And these two have never met each other in one-on-one singles encounter. Ty Conchi, Anna Jay, the dynamic duo Ty and Jay, they're literally in the genesis of their career, with Ty being only 3 years in the game, while Anna Jay literally has just passed her first year. Congratulations, by the way. And they both have become trailblazers in women's wrestling in AEW. Ty Conchi and Nyla Rose, this is their first ever one-on-one encounter. Nyla Rose, of course, coming back, overcoming COVID risks. Glad to see that. And, of course, being a former AEW Women's Champion, I would not count her out. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is probably the strongest character and maybe the most all-round wrestler to take this thing and be your next AEW Women's World Champion. But the fact that Dr. Britt Baker and Anna Jay have not met each other one-on-one, and their only experience with each other was a special tag team Brody Lee showcase match, you gotta wonder, could one of these Bomb 2 matches go either way? Could we see an upset and surprise? Because AEW loves to do that. Let's see what you got to say here, Dylan. My money's on Ty or Baker winning. Ooh. So you think that Ty Conchi could upset the native beast Nyla Rose and meet Britt Baker? I like that, and that kind of goes into my bracketology because I'm going to reveal my proposed bracket in a little bit once I finish discussing the Japanese side. But I like that thought a lot. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with probably all these names, you probably forgot Double or Nothing 2019, allow me to shed some light for you. Yuka Sakazaki is still currently signed with AEW. She is All Elite. She is known as a magical girl and has had matches with Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, where she broke her jaw. Ouch. But also Yuka Sakazaki, she is 7 years in the game, multiple-time champion in Joshi Pro Wrestling, recently coming off a reign as Princess of Princess champion, held that title for over 428 days. She is a jiu-jitsu black belt and a bombshell. It's the right move. Now, Ty Conchi, she's definitely something special. I agree. Anyway, apologies if I screw up these names, by the way, folks. Mai Suruga, she has been only in the game for 2 years now, but she's been trained by Emi Sakura. She's involved in Gato Pro Wrestling and Asia Dream Tag Team Champion right now with Fali and Aki. And if those that have watched the product, you know recently that Mai Sakura was involved in a tag team match where she won. And that tag team match was reffed by Hikaru Shida. So you guys know a little bit of what at least 4 of these young women are very capable of doing in the ring. And if you haven't seen it already, please go to YouTube, check out Gato Pro Wrestling, go check out that wrestling match. It was a really good over 20-minute encounter. I was thoroughly impressed. On the other side of the bracket right there, you got Vinny, also known as ASUKA, Asuka, different Asuka. She has been involved in the game for 5 years, but she is an all-around Techniker style, but she's taken on one of the most experienced people in this entire thing, Emi Sakura, who has 25 years of experience, is an all-round wrestler, and is also a 3-way women's champion who currently has held a belt for 850 days. We all are very familiar with Emi Sakura. She's been involved even in an AEW Women's World Championship match against her own little protege, Riho. And of course, Riho won that. I know people kind of look down at her with the whole Freddie Mercury thing, we'll rock you, blah, blah, blah. But hey, that's her inspiration. Maki Ito, she is one of those that people have literally just drawn so much fire, appreciation, and overall appeal to with her uncensored nature on freaking Twitter. She's been involved in singles and tag team wrestling now. She's been in the game for 4 years, a bit of a freelancer, and she has a wicked diving headbutt. She's currently known as the Fire Idol. So I would not underestimate these super young, up-and-coming talents beating maybe the experienced veterans or those names that you know. Speaking of names that you know, Ryo Mitsunami has not been involved in AEW since that 6-women tag team match back at Double or Nothing 2019. But she's only 32 years old and has 16 years of experience and has been trained by, get this, the final boss, Michael Satomura. Has a ridiculous pile driver lariat combination. And the last time she actually met the champion, Hikaru Shida, was in 2019 in a 15-minute draw. She brings power and she brings technical wrestling. I think Maikai is in over her head, but good luck to her. Which brings me now to the legend, Aja Kong, who has more experience than everybody in this tournament put together. 34 years in the game. Powerhouse brawling style, DDT Ironman heavyweight champion multiple times, world-renowned wrestler, tons of accolades, and she has even been involved with Michael Satomura in the ring, only in tag team matches, ironically. And of course, her opponent, Rin Kadokura, she is a Techniker with 4 years of in-ring experience, a current tag team champion in Wave, has been involved in Stardom most recently with one who I believe is the ace of Stardom, Mayu Itami, former Women of Honor heavyweight champion, and also Aja Khan and Michael Satomura. They faced both Rin Kadokura and a partner for choosing back in 2017 in Sendai Girls Pro Wrestling. So let's go ahead and take a look at the matches, shall we? Each one of these matches has a super young up-and-comer, and each one of these matches has someone with a bunch more experience. A couple of these have world-renowned experienced athletes, and then Yuka and Mai, they're not that far apart, but Yuka does have 7 years of experience under her belt. So with that being said, I was going through this, figuring about, okay, who could I see in the semifinals? What sort of singles encounters can I see on both sides? And what sort of stories do I see playing out more so on the USA side versus the Japanese side? Because the thing about the Japanese side, Joshi Pro Wrestling, it is strong style wrestling. So there is full contact strikes. It's not going to be so much they're going to light it up a little bit on the American side. Because let's face it, America, westernized pro wrestling, it does not hit as hard and heavy as all as Japanese pro wrestling. So I went through this, my own proposed little tournament, and I will be back tomorrow night, folks, with a simple take following the outcomes of the opening rounds in the Japanese side. But this is what I think is going to happen. As we know, Thunder Rosa has already beaten legit Layla Hirsch. She will be facing either Serena Deeb or Riho. Serena Deeb and Riho have never met each other in one-on-one action. Riho being a former AEW Women's World Champion, Serena Deeb being the NWA Women's World Champion, and she could simply catch Serena out of nowhere with a roll-up. We've seen it done. It's how she beat Hikaru Shida back at All Out 2019 to even earn that initial opportunity. With that being said, her coming back from her experience in Stardom working with Queen's Quest, I think Riho is going to advance. And I also think they're going to focus on a storyline that was never picked up. But before I talk more about that, I agree with you, Dylan. I think Tai Kanji or Anna Jay will move forward, and I pick Tai. I think Tai is going to surprise us with the upset of the century, some would say, in her young career, even surprise Anna Jay, and beat Nyla Rose. I think she's going to counter her power. But unfortunately, I have to say, I think Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who many believe is the next AEW Women's World Champion waiting to happen, I think Dr. Britt Baker is going to get the better of Anna Jay with the help of Rebel, not Reba, and is going to advance. And what I like about this is that Anna Jay and Tai Kanji have such a dynamic friendship. You wonder if that's going to be put into question based on who moves forward and what happens here. Tai Kanji moving forward, Anna Jay doesn't. Eventually, could Tai versus Jay happen? Could we get some hostility in this friendship? Because I do have Dr. Britt Baker overcoming Tai Kanji as well. Which leads me to, if you all remember in the early genesis of AEW, Dr. Britt Baker questioned Riho because she wasn't always there. Yet she was the champion. Yet she was the one that people are like supporting. While Dr. Britt Baker is the face of AEW. She's the role model, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like finally that's going to come ahead for the first time ever as a singles match. Which is why I have Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, going all the way in the end of the American side, even overcoming young little Riho. Now, as far as the Japanese side, I did go more so with the experience here because Yuka Sakazaki and Emi Sakura, they have not met each other one-on-one here at all. Neither has Ryo Mizunami and Aja Kong. In fact, the only time that Riho and Aja have ever met is in tag team matches. Dylan says, this tournament is going to legitimize someone, build a small star into a major star. Oh, 100%. Even in defeat, it's sometimes about those matches and competitors you remember that is the biggest takeaway. Allow me to demonstrate. Tomohiro Ishii is Mr. G1. He always brings us a 5-star classic and is probably the top performer. Has yet to win a G1, yet to be Intercontinental Champion, and yet to be Heavyweight Champion. But he's the guy you always remember for the G1 and expect in the G1. Whether it's his classic with Kenny Omega, his strong style offense with Shingo Takagi, or the absolute brutal test and wars he has shared with Kazuchika Okada. The bottom line is this. Somebody or some people out of this tournament are going to be legitimized as top-tier women wrestlers once this thing's over with, both on the American side and on the Japanese side. But I digress. With that being said, I picked Emi Sakura to go forward in the top part against Yuka Sakagasaki because, again, I was going more so off of experience here. And honestly, I feel like here, age can surprise you. Rio is younger than Aja Kong, even though Rico only has 16 years of experience to Aja Kong's 34 years of experience. The last time that Emi Sakura and Aja Kong actually happened was back in 1997 when Emi Sakura was Emi Motokama. So with that being said, I went for that as my big upset on the Japanese side, and I went with Ryo Mitsunami beating Aja Kong. It would not surprise me one bit because I feel like a lot more of the Japanese matches can go either way after the open round. I feel the semifinals are going to be very hard. I could be horribly wrong. But out of this entire thing, going again with that storyline idea, as Britt Baker beats Emi Sakura's student, I couldn't figure of a fitting more way to end this tournament than Dada Britt Baker winning against the teacher herself and one of the most experienced on the Japanese side, Emi Sakura. So overall, my pick to win this tournament is Dr. Britt Baker DMD to finally set up, once again, Hikaru Shida versus Dr. Britt Baker at Revolution, where finally I feel Dr. Britt Baker is going to become the AEW Women's World Champion. And that's all I have to say about that. So I would love to hear people's thoughts, opinions, comments, suggestions, overall winners and outtakes on this too. I could be horribly wrong. I could be 100% right. I could be 10% right. But again, you're just going to have to wait and see. And I'll be back tomorrow night based on the results of the actual first round after it concludes. So please, if you haven't already, tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the opening round of the Japanese side in full on AEW's YouTube page. And for those that want Japanese commentary, it'll be up Tuesday. And yes, I will be watching both. With that being said, that's all I have to say for now on this special, simple edition of AEWSPARK Aftershock. So thanks again for tuning in and let me know your thoughts and, of course, being part of the revolution. You want to know more about me? Know this. I'm just a simple man and a lifelong fan of wrestling. So follow me on Twitter and Foster1916, Instagram and Foster1916 for positive encouragement and wrestling memorabilia because I like to collect wrestling autographs. Just recently got this one. I believe Peyton Royce could be a future Raw Women's Champion. They just need to give her the push. Just saying. That's going off a tangent. Just saying. Or you can follow, of course, the Civil YouTube channel for continued live fun and wrestling coverage at youtube.com/C/NoFoster10 for all things wrestling. South from AEW Family on Twitter. Coming up soon will be coverage over Castle Attack. And if you want to be part of my explorations in New Japan Pro Wrestling, there will be a forum for the final 2 days of Castle Attack up on my Twitter within the next 24 hours. There will also be further predictions and wrestling content as I will be covering WWE's Elimination Chamber with no DQ, of course, covering the Predictions League and hosting the part of that. We got the New Beginning USA led by Jon Moxley and Kenta for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship. I will definitely be giving you continued coverage and a simple take on that as well. And again, we're currently in Castle Attack, so stay tuned and see what happens there. With that being said, that's all I got to say for now. So what are your thoughts on everything going on in wrestling when it comes to AEW, NJPW, Impact Wrestling, Women's Wrestling, Tag Team Wrestling, Bullet Club, Civil War? Will GOD show up and confront the club in AEW? Only time will tell. That's all I got to say for now, though. Thanks for tuning in until the official anniversary edition, which will be next week, of my AEWSPARK series. And who knows? We'll see who sparks up a conversation with me. I hope you all take care. Enjoy life. Tomorrow's never guaranteed. Treasure your families. Enjoy wrestling. There's more of it now than ever. And remember, there are no winners. There are no losers. There are no bears. There are just fans. So respect one another. Support each other. And at the end of the day, folks, let's just enjoy life and enjoy wrestling, because there's never been a more opportunistic, optimistic time to do that. Simple as that. So I'm going to prepare now for NXT TakeOver Vengeance Day. And to all of you who have a special somebody or special things to do, happy Valentine's Day to you. Have a safe, positive, blessed one. Until the next video, take care. Again, yo, and sayonara.